Thank you for joining us on this edition of IpTL Tech Talk. We are going to show you how to upload a Model 70V eGate into Azure using Microsoft PowerShell. So first off, let's show you where we're going to end up. This is the Azure Portal on our demo subscription here, and you can see we have some resources set up. We've got a network, some storage. This is the actual virtual machine running, a couple NICs, public IP address. And so when I'm going to click in on the actual virtual machine, and it'll bring up some details about that. And you can see here we have a public IP address. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to log into the IpTL appliance just like it would be any other IpTL appliance. Here it is. So now you can configure it just like you would any other device. So I'm going to now come over here and we're going to tear all this down and then rebuild it with our script. So one of the interesting things with Microsoft Azure is they have this thing called resource groups. Basically that's a sandbox. So you can take all the things that are in that resource group and easily delete or modify all of them in one fell swoop. Now this takes a little while, so while this is going on, I'm going to go bring up the PowerShell script and show you how that works. So we use the integrating scripting environment, ISE, because it allows us to look at the script and then run it at the same time. And we're going to use this demo file, and that's going to be available in the comments below, as well as off of our doccentral.iptechnologylabs.com site. This is a reference script that goes through and allows you to basically download the file of the appliance from the IpTL site, upload it into your account, establish a couple of NICs and some networks, and actually create the virtual machine. Just so for reference, here is the version of PowerShell ISE that I'm running, and if you need to get PowerShell and or further additional details about it, you can get that here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to log into our account, and then we've got some variables to set up, and then the script will run. So the first variable is this is the actual file name that will get pulled from the IpTL site and then also will be uploaded into the Azure site. So for the download, this has to be the file name that was given to you by IpTL. Put that in here and it'll take care of getting that from our site appropriately. Here we create a resource group. This is just a generic name. And what's interesting is you can actually run the script without affecting the rest of your production environment. Just make sure the resource group is a different name than anything that you have else running on there. Also, you can select the location that is best suited to you. Some locations don't do all of the compute models, so we specify a very small end compute model here, 1 CPU, 1 gig of RAM. That'll be good for a handful of connections depending on what you're doing. Also, your subscription needs to support multiple NICs as well based on this. But we're going to use East US because that's working quite well for us. Here's the handle for the subnet. One thing about Azure, the way it's designed is that all of the network interfaces that are attached to a virtual have to be within the same subnet. You can't have different subnets. That's a limitation of Azure, and if you want to actually connect between subnets, they have a whole different set of configuration for that. So here we're going to have a front-end subnet, which is in that range up here, and we're going to connect a public IP to that, and then we're going to have a private subnet or the back-end subnet that has no public IP. That will kind of give you the idea of how you would do a virtual private cloud that is completely isolated from the internet. And then we assign some static IPs to the appliance so that we always know what they're getting. Here's that name that you saw on the portal. That's where that comes from. And then here's the compute model. We create some storage and a place to put the actual uploaded VHD in, as well as where we're going to be storing some of the operating system disk. And then we run the script. So pretty straightforward. We grab the file and put it into your temp directory on your host that you're running the script from. We create some resources, storage, upload the file into storage. We create the networking infrastructure, the actual NICs. We get the public IP as well is attached to the proper NIC here, and the addresses that we signed up earlier. Create the virtual machine object, attach those interfaces to the virtual machine object, and then actually here's where the bulk of the magic happens right there. This actually creates the running machine. So let's go back and check on Azure, see if it's done tearing down our resource group. This can vary depending on load and what's going on the network. And if I click on that, obviously it's still deleting. So we're going to pause the video right now until this is done, and we'll be right back. All right, so Azure has finally deleted all of our resources. So here you can see that we have nothing here and nothing in the dashboard. So now we're ready to run our script. And let's go back to our PowerShell script. So first thing I'm going to do is going to log into our account and then do all the magic. So I'm going to raise this up here. So I'm going to have to log into our demo account. Now that we're in, type too fast. You can see it's downloading the file. The file is only about 60 meg, so we have a very, very small footprint in the cloud, which means lower costs. And so we just downloaded that to our temp directory, and now it is going through and setting up the storage. So we created that resource group we talked about, created that in that location. Provisioning was successful there. So now it's going to create basically some file storage for us and then upload the file into that. And so let's see how this goes. Sometimes this can take a few moments to do, but we're going to let this run because I want you to understand that it might take a while, and that means everything is still okay. One of the things you have to keep in mind with Azure is everything is on a networking level layer 3. There is no layer 2 semantics at all. There's no multicast, which is layer 3 and layer 2. There is actually no IP and IP, no GRE. They filter all that stuff out. So really what you're going to do when you connect a link up with IpTL is going to be really doing a routed network. And we have some features that make that a little bit easier for you. All right, so you can see that it's set up the storage account and then uploaded the file into Azure. This is some housekeeping that Azure does. And now it is setting up the networking. So it's creating those network objects. And then it'll create the NICs, attach the NICs to the virtual machine creation, and then create the virtual machine. So this will generally go by fairly quickly. So here we are with into the NICs. So we're going to have NIC 1's done now, and this is the one that has the public IP on it. And now it's setting up the compute objects and now actually creating the virtual machine. So if I go into, if I refresh our page here, we should see all a bunch of resources on here. We got the network, we got the virtual machine, etc., etc. If I click on that virtual machine, it should be showing that it's in the create state. So let's see what it's doing here. We've already got a public IP on that, and actually it might be running already. So let's see. Yep, it's still creating here. So we will wait to see that finish. Now, it's already assigned a public IP that comes from the Azure pool. And so when this is up and running, we're going to actually log right into that just like we did before. Now with IpTL's patented real-time resource, we don't care if that address changes at all. So you don't have to pay for a static public IP that's always dedicated to your virtual machine. We can take whatever they give you there. and that gets mapped to the private address. So I'm going to click on copy of that and open up a new window. Now sometimes it takes a few minutes for Azure to propagate that public address to our actual virtual machine instance. So if it takes a few moments to get that done, then just be patient on that. Shouldn't take too much longer. It usually comes right up. So let's do another. Let's try to log in again, and there it is. So boom, brand new instance, and just back like we were at the beginning of the beginning. So you can go in and click on networking. If you look on the system interface, we've got that private address now that's on the system interface. And what's interesting with Azure is that even though we have set this for DHCP and set it as a static in Azure, our unit will DHCP, Azure will give us that address every time. So you can go back here and set this address on here if you want. You really don't need to, because Azure will make sure that that's always there. And then if you look on the uplink interface, here's the private address, and that's detached. So we have a trust boundary between the public side network and the public and the private side, which is nice. Keep your good stuff in and the bad stuff out. And so that's it. And then you'd go in here and set up a routed tunnel. But we're going to save that for another video. So if you need additional information, please drop us a line at support@iptechnologylabs.com or visit doccentral.iptechnologylabs.com to check out any additional documentation. Thank you.